Hello and welcome to the Forgeborn Finishing School. I'm Casey Kidd and I'll be analyzing Forgeborn battles to help take your game to the next level. This week we are going to dig into some fun armor mechanics and synergies. Armor Synergy decks have yet to crack into the top meta, but these cards can create mini synergies in other powerful decks that really help a deck shore up potential weak points. Armor allows you to protect your creatures from some initial damage before the more permanent loss of health. When printed on a card, that armor regenerates every turn, making armored creatures some of the toughest to chump block and whittle down over time. If the armor is provided from another ability or card, that armor is not permanent and will disappear at the end of the round, regardless of being used or not. Let's jump right into some synergy driving cards, and the first one up is my personal favorite, the Forge Plate Yeti. This formidable armored Yeti comes into play and allows you to deal damage to a creature based on the amount of armor you have in play. This can often be a small amount, but as you will soon learn, there are a couple cards that can provide an immense amount of armor to your board state. The Aegis Knight. This robot comes on the board with a decent stat line and stealth, but also gains additional attack damage for each creature with armor in play. This includes your opponent's armor. When playing on Forge, this can be a very powerful punch that is hard to block. Scipion Augmentation is a spell with seriously high potential. When played, all of your creatures gain armor, and if you have a mage in play, you deal damage to all of your opponent's creatures. This has the ability to swap the outcome of every lane of combat on the battlefield by essentially affecting a 6 health swing in favor of your creatures. The Brightsteel Sentinel is an often overlooked card, but it has the ability to give all of your robots armor on play. In the right deck, this could be a very strong card. At level 3, that armor given is 8. Even if this is your only robot on the board, that could be enough to enable your Forge Plate Yeti to clean up a very powerful opposing creature. The Brightsteel Gargoyle has an adaptive-like ability in an activate form, allowing you to gain either armor or attack and pseudo-mobility depending on the forge state. Now we'll briefly talk about the Shield-bearing Forge Ward. It's welcome in any Alolan half that has some of the aforementioned cards, giving some substantial amount of armor for the first turn the creature is in play. Gauntlets of Solgrim acts as a single point Scipion Augmentation without the requirement of having a mage. Not nearly as powerful, but it is still a very useful card, being able to weaken one creature and shore up another's defense with one card. This card often allows you to swap the outcome of 2 lanes of combat. Force Field allows you to drop a large amount of armor on one creature for a turn. If it's a warrior, you get to pile some attack right on top. It's worth noting that the attack gain is permanent. There are a couple of Alolan warriors that really love this card. And now for the difficult to pronounce Orion Battle Droid. It comes onto the field with an extremely lopsided stat line in favor of attack. They make up for it with a large amount of armor per level added on. Due to its very high attack, this card can be a pretty strong underdrop in later levels. However, it is very susceptible to Necrim spells that lower health, allowing them to bypass the armor for easier destruction. I want to stress an earlier point right now. Armor Synergy is unlikely to be a deck-defining synergy. It will likely play a secondary role in your deck. Keep this in mind when evaluating half decks. Sometimes the right few cards above can make a good deck pairing into a great pairing. Jumping into some battlefield analysis, we can see the game sits at 46 to 47 and it's still early on in the game. This is one of my favorite Armor Synergy half decks in action with a Betrayer Summoner already on the board. Drawing Scipion Augmentation, I play it immediately to clear his previously damaged Blight Witch and give each of my creatures an additional 4 armor. I choose to save my Summoner activation here and see what the opponent responds with. The opponent follows up with a Summoning Council to put some blockers on the board. I can only assume the opponent is wishing we hadn't cleared the Blight Witch off the board with our last play. They would have had a free spell lined up with the fodder around. Now I play the Aegis Knight, who is going to get an astonishing +6 attack with stealth as well. Unless the opponent has a way to play an aggressive creature, they will not be able to block the 11 damage straight to their life points. I then activate the Summoner based on my previously played spell to put another zombie minion into play. Not being able to respond to the Aegis Knight, my opponent plays a Hibernating Basher to block and kill a zombie minion and hopefully set themselves up to do some damage in future rounds. After this round of combat, only my free zombie minion was killed, and the rest of my creatures are undamaged due to the awesome power of Scypian Augmentation and his armor granting abilities. Additionally, my opponent lost 11 health and must deal with the Aegis Knight during this next round of combat. This is going to wrap up a short episode on Armor Synergies and Solforge Fusion. Next week we will have our first collaboration video discussing timing windows and batch mechanics with a viewer who recommended Taliesin as a future video topic. If you would like to have some input on future topics, just leave a comment below. Thanks for attending this lesson with Forgeborn Finishing School. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, and consider donating to our Patreon account. I'm Casey Kidd, and I look forward to our next lesson.